We live in a divided world, dear viewer. It seems like even the most innocuous subjects or the most fundamental aspects of reality are now subject to constant debate and contention. And nowhere is that division more obvious than in the world of media, where every new movie and TV show becomes a battleground between warring factions, each determined to prove that they're in the right. But sometimes, just sometimes, a project comes along that's so monumentally, epically, and comprehensively terrible that it manages to unite the entire world in absolute contempt. It happened before with Santa Inc., a theoretical comedy made by two talentless, mean-spirited hacks posing as comedians who haven't actually produced anything remotely funny in more than a decade, which tried to use feminism and identity politics to attack the literal personification of goodwill and generosity at Christmas time, no less.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
And it seems to be happening again with the release of Queen Cleopatra, a Netflix documentary series produced by one of the least popular actresses in Hollywood, and that's saying something, believe me, centered around female African rulers throughout history. I mean, calling it a documentary is a bit like calling Inglourious Basterds a historically accurate depiction of World War II, but don't worry, we'll get back to that soon enough. Believe that. Anyway, the show kicked up a firestorm of controversy and backlash, earned itself the lowest rating that I've ever personally seen on Rotten Tomatoes, and even managed to get itself sued on behalf of the entire country of Egypt. Damn man, this thing's about as popular as the salad bar at Lizzo's birthday party. So why are people so fucking mad about this thing anyway? Well, the main criticism centers around the recasting of Cleopatra. Sorry, reimagining, because I guess that's what we call it now when we blatantly try to rewrite verified historical facts to suit our own 21st century narrative and gaslight anyone who calls us out on our bullshit as hateful bigots. Kind of like how the Woman King tried to reimagine a brutal expansionist military dictatorship who massacred entire communities and happily sold their own people into slavery as a progressive and enlightened society to be cherished and protected, and a unit of female warriors who once lost more than 500 troops to kill a grand total of 6 French soldiers as an elite fighting force that would make the Avengers shit themselves in absolute terror.
I think I can smell shite.
You know, it's always funny watching Hollywood activists combing the pages of history in search of some hidden truth that'll finally validate all their long-standing biases and personal hang-ups, and when they inevitably come up short, just kind of throwing up their hands and saying, fuck it, we'll just make it up instead. Sorry, reimagine it. The thing is, works of historical fiction like The Woman King, or Braveheart, or 300 generally get cut a bit of slack because, well, the clue's in the name. They're works of fiction. Yeah, fiction based on real events, very loosely in some cases, but fiction all the same. I'm not a huge fan of it myself because I know how many people can be misled by stuff like this, but hey, I also wasn't born yesterday. Real history is often muddy and complex and doesn't deliver the big, satisfying emotional payoffs that people expect from movies. Telling compelling stories that people want to see sometimes means bending and embellishing the truth. Documentaries are a very different beast though, because the whole point is to give the audience an accurate and unbiased insight into real events, backed up by facts and evidence from eyewitnesses and experts in the relevant fields. Their very purpose is to separate fact from fiction and delve deeper into the actual reality behind the myths and commonly held beliefs. And that's where Cleopatra runs into a spot of trouble, because the whole motivation of this show seems to be the exact opposite. It's there to bend and distort reality, to turn her into something she absolutely wasn't, in order to fit the narrative of the showrunners. See, the stated goal of the African Queens series is to shed light on important black female rulers throughout history, unknown and overlooked people who actually had a big impact on the world. As producer Jada Pinkett Smith said, we don't often get to see or hear stories about black queens, and that was really important for me, as well as for my daughter, and just for the community to be able to know those stories because there's tons of them. Fair play, Jada, I can totally get behind that one. After all, there's plenty of historical people and events that haven't had the mainstream attention that they deserve. The problem I suspect they ran into with this one is that female rulers of organised nation states in sub-Saharan Africa that had a major and lasting impact impact on world history are probably a bit thin on the grounds. And rather than dig deeper to find more obscure figures that might not have mainstream appeal, they just decided, fuck it, we'll just take Cleopatra and make her ours now.
Fuck.
Because everyone knows about Cleopatra, right? She's the kind of name that'll bring your series a lot of attention, and if you can somehow convince enough people that she was actually black all along, then you'll earn yourself a lot of praise from your big friends in Hollywood. Because after all, how do we really know what Cleopatra looked like? It's not like her Macedonian Greek heritage was a well-documented matter of verified historical record, or that we have countless portraits, statues, busts, friezes, and even coins with her face on them, all depicting her with classical Greek facial features. Oh wait. But hey, maybe they've got some awesome new evidence that's just come to light, or compelling testimony from respected figures in their fields.
I imagine her to have curly hair like me and a similar skin color.
I remember my grandmother saying to me, I don't care what they tell you in school, Cleopatra was black.
Well, if your senile old gran reckons that a Ptolemaic ruler born thousands of years before her lifetime was black, then I'm convinced.
Yes, I can definitely smell shite.
But it really gives you an insight into the mindset of the showrunners on this one. The childly simplistic idea that if you choose to believe in something, then it just magically becomes the truth, even if all the evidence at your disposal says the exact opposites. It's the same reason that I'm not actually 200 feet tall and made out of solid gold. Shit man, even the Egyptians have gone to war against this thing. The head of the Supreme Council for Antiquities, Mustafa Waziri, said that calling Cleopatra black would be a falsification of Egyptian history, and that Netflix is trying to stir up confusion to spread false information that the origin of Egyptian civilization is black. See, that's the problem with trying to appropriate an actual documented historical figure and pass off your bullshit wish fulfillment fantasy as a legit, unbiased documentary. You really have to provide receipts to back it up, and if the best you can come up with is, my gran told me to believe a comforting lie to make me feel better about myself, then funnily enough, people are going to push back against it. So how do you think the showrunners reacted to this backlash? Did they take this criticism on the chin, acknowledge the complaints, and apologise for any offence caused?
You serious?
Well, not really, no. Why shouldn't Cleopatra be a melanated sister? Series director Tina Garavi asks. And why do some people need Cleopatra to be white? Her proximity to whiteness seems to give her value, and for some Egyptians, it seems to really matter. No kidding, Tina. I suspect it does matter that you're trying to rewrite their own history for them and project 21st century American ideals onto something that you've got little or no understanding of. It's not just that I've directed a series that portrays Cleopatra as black, and that I've asked Egyptians to see themselves as Africans, and they're furious at me for that. I'm okay with this. Well, as long as you're okay with it, then I guess that's just fine. Never mind that you've insulted the cultural heritage of more than 100 million Egyptians and turned pretty much the entire internet against you and your shitty projects. The only thing that truly matters is what you want, what makes you happy, the truth that you choose to believe. You know, I'm trying to think of a phrase that best sums up this kind of mindset.
Sheer fucking hubris.
Nah, I've got nothing. So, was Cleopatra black? We don't know for sure, but we can be certain that she wasn't white like Elizabeth Taylor. We need to have a conversation with ourselves about our colorism and the internalized white supremacy that Hollywood has indoctrinated us with.
Well, come on!
See, I can tell what you're trying to do here. You're trying to equate two very different things in order to deflect the entire question away from yourself. So what if my supposed documentary that claims to be based on hard scientific facts is actually wildly inaccurate nonsense with no basis in reality? This fictional movie that I saw from half a century ago was also wrong, so that makes it totally okay. No, it doesn't. John Wayne playing Genghis Khan in The Conqueror was also ridiculous Hollywood nonsense from a different era of filmmaking, but if you tried to make a factual documentary now claiming that Genghis Khan was actually a black man because we don't know for sure what he actually looked like, then you'd rightfully piss off the whole of Mongolia in the process. The point I'm making here is that nobody's buying the bullshit you're desperately trying to sell them, and you don't just get to use racism as a magical shield to deflect any criticism that comes your way. The fact is, you made something that you knew was a lie, that you tried to pass off as the truth, because you exist in the kind of bubble where everyone's fantasy becomes their own unique reality and nobody questions it, and so you just assume that the rest of the world thinks the same way. And when you got the hard reality check that you absolutely deserved, you fell back on the same tired excuses that get rolled out anytime a lazy race-swapped Hollywood production comes under fire. It didn't work back then, and it's certainly not going to work for you now. But hey, maybe Cleopatra can serve as a lesson for future generations of documentary makers, that what we want to be true is often very different from what's actually true, and if you can't deal with that, then maybe you shouldn't be making them in the first place. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.